I am Bailey with Midnight Mama Sleep Consulting. Today, I want to talk about nap transitions and specifically kind of the 5 month age range when your child is probably on 3 naps, but they're getting close to transition to 2 naps and you're not really sure what to do. So, if that sounds like your situation, then listen up. I'm going to give you some good advice. 5 months can be a really confusing time for babies because they just went through the 4 month sleep regression the month before. And then 6 months is a huge change for babies because they usually are definitely down to 2 naps a day. And most babies can sleep through the night with no night feedings at 6 months old. So, in those 2 months, from 4 to 6 months, there is lots of change, lots of changes to awake times, schedules, and lots of developmental changes. So, if your child's sleep is suffering a little bit in this time zone, you're not alone. Don't worry too much. But if you do need some help, of course, you can get it. But when you're looking at nap transitions, you always want to make sure that you're transitioning at the right time. So you don't want to transition too early. You also don't want to transition too late. So what are the signs to look for? I would say one of the most common things is when you go to lay your baby down, they are not falling asleep right away. So we're looking at laying a baby down awake because if we already lay them down asleep, then we can't judge their schedule well enough because you've put them to sleep. So if we can lay your baby down awake and they are awake for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes before falling asleep, then generally that's a scheduling issue and we need to lengthen their awake time. So if we're lengthening their awake time enough that you can't fit 3 naps in without their bedtime being pushed until really late, then that's one sign that your child is ready to be on a 2 nap schedule. Another common indicator is that you put your child down for these naps, these 3 naps, and they start waking up really early from them, just as though they're having one sleep cycle per nap. So it's these really short, kind of 35 to 45-minute naps happening just 3 times a day. So you might think they're not ready because they're not sleeping enough, but sometimes they're not ready because the awake time's wrong. So for a baby who is 5 months old, I recommend the awake time of 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes to about 2.5 hours of awake time during the day. Usually that shorter period, so the 2 hours and 15 minutes, that would be used at the beginning of the day, whereas the 2.5 hours would be used closer to the end of the day. As you have a schedule with these awake times, you can appropriately plan the nap time, and it will make your nap schedule a lot easier. Another common sign that your child is ready to drop down to 2 naps is that the 2 naps in the morning, or the morning one and then the early afternoon nap, they're happening really well and your child is sleeping long for them. So if your child is consistently napping 4 hours a day throughout the day, then they don't need that third nap. So if they're having a 2 hour nap in the morning, followed by another hour and a half or another 2 hour nap in the afternoon, then there's no time to squeeze in a third nap. And it's not necessarily necessary for them to have it. So, when you're in this limbo phase, there will also be days where your child, who probably normally naps well, isn't napping good. And you're wondering if you should do a 3 nap schedule that day. On one hand, yes, a little bridge nap can be helpful where you give them a short nap right at the end of the day, usually a car seat or a stroller nap. Motion naps work great for these ones, but also you're keeping in mind that if there's no time for that or it doesn't fit your schedule appropriately, then you can also bump bedtime up. So you can do bedtime up to an hour earlier than normal if it's still within the appropriate awake time period. So if we're doing early bedtime, we are still honoring the full wake window, the full bedtime wake window. So, if you have questions about that, please leave them in the comments below. But just know that 5 months can be a tricky time as you're switching from the 3 nap to the 2 nap schedule, but your child doesn't tolerate a whole lot of awake time yet. Um, just know that things will get better as their schedule really solidifies, and that generally happens around 6 months old. So if you would like to work one-on-one, please send me an email at bailey@midnightmamasleepconsulting.com. Otherwise, stay tuned for a new video next week. I release videos every Monday, so be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you do not miss anything. Have a great week.